When did I actually have that foundation? Did I sign the foundation problem?
For 14, I believe.
I don't know if I signed foundation or not, did I?
15, no.
What?
You did, you assigned 1 through 5 and 15.
Yeah, that was on the next chapter.
I mean, yeah, 1 through 5 for chapter 5.
Yeah. But for this chapter, we a couple of problems we'll look at real quick, 4, 12, and 13. I guess in the appendix, I don't know if the appendix, was there a problem 412 and 413 in the appendix?
Yes.
It went from cases. Yeah, there was. I think that's the two problems that Kayla, 4, 12, and 13 in the appendix.
10 and 11.
What?
You have 10 and 11.
10 and 11.
In the appendix.
Yes.
Come in, Anthony. You're always happy.
Yeah, so I leave up out of here.
Yeah.
That's when things get real in life.
Might as well be happy that, we have choices, don't we?
Yep.
We can be mad, happy, frustrated.
You know this stuff that Delta run today?
What?
The Delta run? I think that's what it's called.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I've heard that.
Well, it's 11 o'clock and we started taping. All right, let's look at problem 10 and 11 in chapter 4 first. And I need to look at one more appendix. It will not be on a test in chapter 4. In chapter 5, we'll look at contribution margin, break even, which I think that's easy concept. But now chapter 4, I just hope you're getting these two methods, weighted average and FIFO. That's what we've been working on. So not going to take a lot of time on these problems. Part 1, about every problem we have had is equivalent units. All right. For materials, 170,000, conversion costs 165. Now materials, all right, like David and some of our classes up here, he does a lot of furniture. Where do you think he puts his materials into the process? Do you think he puts it all in at the beginning?
Probably somewhere in the middle. Depending on if you had any leftovers.
He's adding materials all the way through the process. But now, what if you were, wine or beer or Coca-Cola or Pepsi? Where's all your materials go in?
At the beginning.
All right. How about moonshine? Same thing.
Yeah.
All right. All your materials go into the beginning. But now I have known of a process where materials go at the end, but it's hard to name something where all the materials go at the end of a process. You can't add labor and overhead to materials unless you got them to make something. But sometimes materials go in evenly throughout the process. But in this problem, all materials went in at the beginning of the process. Okay? All right, or 100%, as you can see. Okay, now labor and overhead was only 30% completed. Now this is the beginning of the process. Now, and I have told you on FIFO, see, now again, I can't write on this thing, and some of them will let me draw, some of it won't, so I can't. But you got to use beginning inventory here, but you don't have to worry about beginning inventory on weighted average, do you? This is not even mentioned. Now here we've got units started and completed. You got to figure out how many was started and completed. That's easy to do. We've looked at a couple different ways. All right, that was 150,000. Now look at materials again. They were all added at the beginning of the process. So we had added 100% of materials. Now labor, we only added 40%. And that's why we have equivalent units of 8. But here's your two important answers. If you don't get those, you miss everything else. Okay? Now, cost per equivalent unit, if you know all of your cost, all you got to do is divide, and you've got to have cost per equivalent unit. That's usually part 3. Part 1 is your information. Part 2 is your equivalent units. Part 3 is your cost per equivalent unit. Now, part 4 and 5 here, all right, just see the next page for parts 3 and 4. But cost reconciliation, beginning working process, this is your money, and cost added, your money, and where's it go to? Now, this is parts 3 and 4, and that's where it goes to. You got to find out your equivalent units in the working process times your materials cost or times your conversion cost. All right, you're going to come up with this amount, and then units transferred out, the money you had already in the beginning, and then cost per equivalent unit, time those transferred out. And then cost of units started and finished. You got to account for that. Now that is 368.70, and that's what they're showing you here is the 368.70, and of course the beginning inventory or ending. So we've got to know that. That is the whole production summary. Okay? Now how about 11? How many of you have number 11 completed? How many? I'm going to take that one up today as a bonus on your next tip. Everybody has the same opportunity now to have these ready. And if you're listening to me out there today live, if you fax me problem 11, email by probably 1 o'clock today, then you are also getting it in for a bonus. All right, hang on to that problem 11 for a moment. I'll scan it real quick, but I won't spend a lot of time on it. Equivalent units, whose phone was that? That sounds like my ring in my office, but I'm not going to get it. But equivalent units for materials was 180, for conversion cost was 155, cost per unit $1.86 and $1.54. Cost reconciliation, 623.5, 623.5. And all right, here is how do you find that? Now, folks, take this serious. If you haven't worked problem 11, please do so. FIFO method. And practice one weighted average, because this is probably 30 points of your next test. So don't lose 30 points that you can receive. All right. I want you to turn to the appendix 2 in your text. Nancy, you have your book with you?
No, Greg has it. That's what I'm about to call and see where he at right now.
I know this one to get a decent PowerPoint. It won't let me download the things. Won't let me download them, so I have to try to go back probably. To your Moodle page. Hopefully I've got it on there. Well, this is it. Could have just opened it up.
It's downloaded down the bottom.
Down to the bottom somewhere.
That right there, go up on your actual window. Your Internet Explorer window.
Now that was the.
It downloaded and you just got to click to open it.
That's not it, is it?
No, it's on your Moodle page there at the bottom.
Oh, I see what you're talking about right here.
Yeah, it's next to the Google Hangouts sharing
Hmm.
over on the left-hand side. Very bottom left of the page.
Okay, I am all the way at the bottom.
Keep going that. With your mouse. Not the actual page, but your mouse. I got it.
I'll just come up and show me, Mark. Where am I going to? Oh, all the way over here.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, chapter 5, yeah. There's a light print and I didn't see it for some reason. Okay, but first off, we're going to chapter 4. We're going to go to page 190. We get Anthony and William case. Case Greg don't show up, if Anthony shows back up on this book. Okay, now what you're looking at on these 2 pages, I won't give them to you on test or even do any homework, but I'm going to mention them. Now, some of you have to take cost accounting next semester, and we'll look at this in more detail in cost accounting. But how do you allocate overhead to departments? Anthony, you can borrow mine there.
Hold on, he said he's gonna bring me a
Yeah.
copy when he.
But anyway, look at the middle of page 190, if you would. We've got a service department, which hospital administration and custodial department services. Then we've got a laboratory and we've got a patient care. So it looks like 2 production departments and 2 service departments. Now, if we've got hospital administration of 360,000, we got to allocate that to the operating departments. And here it looks like they're allocating, okay, you can do that by the number of employees, hours, or you can do that by the space occupied, square feet. You can do it by cubic feet. Cubic feet is length, width, height. Square feet, number of employees, number of machine hours. You can allocate overhead on a lot of different situations. But here, if you look at page 191, how do we get rid of that 360,000? Okay, they're using, what are they using? They're using 46, where are they getting the 46? Space occupied or employee hours. Okay, 18 and 30 is 48. Is that 40? Based on employee hours, 18 plus 30 is 48,000. So 18 over 48 times 360 gives you 135. And 30 over 48 times 360 gives you 225. That's how you allocated. That's how you would allocate to hospital administration to the 2 production departments. And then, of course, for custodian services, I think they did that by the number of square feet. 5,000 square feet and 45 makes 50. What is 5 over 50? All right, 5 over 50, I guess, is 1/10. And 45 over 50 would be the other 9/10. So 1/10 of 90,000 is $9,000. And 9/10 of 90,000 is 81,000. Now that's called the direct method. What it means by the direct method, you don't allocate one service department to another service department. You allocate that service department only to production. Now this could have been welding and painting departments, production. It could have been assembly and painting departments, that is. They base this on a hospital. Now the step down method, you allocate one service department to another one. All right, look at page 192. So custodial services is going to get some of that administration cost of 360. And again, based on the number of employees. Okay, they gave you the fractions there, 6 over 54 and 18 and 30. And you allocate to 360 to custodial, laboratory, and patient care. All right, so you take the 90 and the 40 and you got 130 in the custodial department. And you allocate that then to the laboratory and patient care. Again, I'm not giving you this on a test. I'm not going to even have us work any problems with these methods. But if you take cost accounting, you will get those in more detail. There are problems concerning that. But last Thursday, we started cost volume profit relationship. All right. And this is the contribution margin approach. And here is your contribution margin statement. Now, I don't think it's going to even let me write on a PowerPoint, but it should. Not even going to let me write on a PowerPoint. But if you look at this contribution approach, you've got sales minus variable expense gives you CM, contribution margin, minus fixed expense gives you net operating income. Now we know if net operating income is zero, it's break even, no. Break even, you're able to pay your fixed expenses. Now contribution margin pays for two things, fixed expenses and net operating income. Okay, those problems, did I take them up? Let me get them. I didn't think I picked them up. Oh, something else. If you make 100 on a test, you don't need to do these bonuses. Or if you're satisfied with a C, you probably don't need to do the bonuses. Okay. Or if you're satisfied with a D or whatever else you might make. But contribution margin approach, we do have to spend a lot of time on it. If they sell 400 units in a month, it will operate at the break-even point. All right. Now we can break this down even into percents. Sales is always 100%. Okay, 200 and 120. Variable cost would be 60%. 280 contribution margin would be 40%. It takes that 40% to pay fixed expenses, which is 40%. And net income is zero. We looked at that a little bit last Thursday. If you sell one more bike. Now back to this one though. Why would a company stay in business for a little while anyway if they were breaking even? Why would they want to stay in business if they were just breaking even?
Why would you? I wouldn't.
Most people wouldn't, would they? But what if that business had these fixed expenses they got to pay? If this is a branch, they got to pay. So let's say a coal mine shuts down. A coal mine, EPA shut down a lot of West Virginia coal mines. There's no revenue, right? But were there still some fixed expenses for those coal mines? What would those be?
Sewage draining, equipment.
The equipment's still going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, you may have to have some electricity to keep fans and things operating back in those shafts, and so forth.
Yeah.
You may have to have security to go around and make sure people are not stealing equipment or on the property even to get injured. So you still may have to carry insurance on the property, line, and equipment for a while. So you may want to operate even if you just break even. And that would make sense for a branch or a division or what have you. But if it's your only business, you can't pay $80,000 worth of fixed expenses forever, can you? You got to shut it down completely and have no security, no electricity, no anything, because you can't pay it. This is simple equation. Sales minus variable expenses minus fixed expenses gives you net operating income or profit. All right, the relationship there then is still more formulas, which you really don't need. Profit is price times the quantity minus variable expenses times the quantity minus fixed. You don't have to use those equations by any means. It's always better just to look at it right there. Sales minus variable costs minus fixed. Other ways of looking at 200, but I want to look at unit contribution margin. Unit contribution margin times quantity minus fixed expenses. Of course, it gives you profit also. A lot of different ways of looking at profit, but the best way, put it on the statement. Now, we don't have to prepare graphs. I don't want you to have to plot lines or anything of that nature. But all they're showing you here, the red line is fixed, isn't it? It's totally horizontal. And your variable goes up according to volume. But you could easily chart that, but we won't do it. I don't want you to buy graph paper.
He says I saw one.
Okay. All right, the CM ratio is calculated by dividing the total contribution margin by the total sales. Now, if you want that as a percent, that is 100 divided by 250 is 40%. At break even, fixed expenses would also be 40%. So you'll need to calculate this contribution margin ratio on the next test. Now, the contribution margin ratio, if you take the contribution margin per unit divided by the sales price per unit, you get 40%. Or if you want to take the total contribution margin divided by the total sales, you still get 40%. All right, take a minute and work this little quick check. Take a minute and see if you can work this quick check. Let's do it on one unit. Don't do it on total units. Same thing. Okay, what was the selling price per unit? Have I got that down yet? $1 what? 49, is that correct? All right, I'm going to flash back over to that one. Selling price per unit is $1.49. Now, what is the variable cost per unit? 36 cents, right? All right, the variable cost is 36 cents, and contribution margin is how much?
$1.13.
Now, turn those into percents, whereas sales is 100%. Turn them into percents. Okay, Georgie, what is 36 cents divided by $1.49?
Well, I divided 1.13 by $1.49.
All right, how much is that?
76%.
76 rounded?
Yeah, rounded.
Then 36 divided by 149 would have to be the difference, wouldn't it? All right. Okay, now I'm going to minimize this and see what answer is closest to 76%. But this is all you're doing. All right. Georgie, would it have been answer B? All right, rounded. Okay. And they're showing you how to work it here, and they circled the answer. $1.13 divided by $1.49. So you do it by unit, or you can do it. So know that little CM ratio format. All right, if you extend the bikes to 400 or 500, if you extend sales volume of 500, there should be a shortcut to get that. I don't know what the 40% was. I'd have to go back and look at that example. Now, we know if a change in variable cost or fixed cost or selling price or volume, we know that all affects your net income, don't it? Now, variable expenses was that 26. If contribution margin was 76% rounded, and the variable ratio was 26% rounded, okay? And here, this is a different example. Your ratio is 60% for variable cost. Okay, there's a term here you should be aware of. Can't find it, but it's here.
Having the incremental analysis.
Yeah, incremental. What does the word incremental mean?
To increase or decrease in a certain amount.
It's the extra, is it? It's extra. You already make it 100,000. Now you're gonna make 120. Your incremental profit would be 20,000. Okay. So here, increase in contribution margin, 40 units times 200 is 8,000. Increase in advertising expenses 10. In this case, you had a decrease, so you had an incremental cost of 2,000 if you try to sell more units. All right, I'm just going to try to get to another formula here too, and we'll work on break even. If you want to target profit, add that on to your fixed expenses. All right, I'll need to bring up my, so they're using contribution margin real often, but now I start you off with the, all right, let's say fixed cost is equal to 20,000. Selling price is $10 a unit. And your variable cost is, let's say, $8 a unit. Now, that's all you need to do a break-even analysis or a contribution margin ratio. Okay, now the formula I told you was to take break-even is equal to fixed cost over, it's really over contribution margin. Or it's over the selling price minus the variable cost. That gives you contribution margin. Selling price minus variable cost gives you contribution margin. Now you can change those to percents if you want to. But right here, though, what is your answer for this problem? 20,000 over $2 is how much? What's your break even? 20,000 over $2 is how much?
Repeat that, please.
All right, just give me break even. Right here is your formula, fixed cost over contribution margin. Here's fixed cost, 20,000. What is contribution margin? 2. Divide 2 into 20,000, what do you get? All right, that answer should be $10,000. Okay, now I told you before, all right, if sales is equal to 10,000 units times $10, how much is that? And variable cost is equal to 10,000 times $8. That's 80,000. Now that gives you contribution margin, which is 20,000. But what is your fixed cost? 20. That's why you have a net income of 0. Okay. Now, all I want now is a $15,000 profit per month. It's going to pay my salary. I want to make that much per month. Now, use the formula that we just flipped off of PowerPoint. Calculate how many units I have to sell to give me a $15,000 profit. All right, now, folks, that formula is simple. You should have this by now. Break even is equal to fixed cost plus TP, target profit, over, all right, contribution margin. Contribution margin is selling price minus variable cost. All right, so plugging this in, you've got 20,000 plus how much profit did I want?
15,000.
So 20 plus 15 is what? 25, 35. Contribution margin is still what? $2. I change that to percent, then I get dollars instead of units. Now, what is 2 into 35,000? All right, that will give you your target profit. Now, to prove that, and we take net sales, 17.5 times $10. Variable cost, 17.5 times $8. Somebody multiply that for me. What's 17.5 times $8? 140. All right. Now you can see what we're going to have left. Now take out the fixed cost, excuse me, of 20, and that leaves you a targeted profit, net income of 15,000. All right. Now we can change any of these variables, any of them. And that's what they're talking about in the next few pages. We can maybe change fixed cost. It could possibly go up. We can change selling price. Now here, back to the original, how many did we need to break even?
10,000.
All right, it's 2 into 20, right? Okay, it's 10,000. All right, now a question for some of you. Monique, I'll just start with you. If I raise this selling price more than 10, that means more than, will my break even of 10 go up or down? What? Up. All right, now we're going to practice that. Let's increase your selling price to $12. Now work it out. Work out break even with $12 as your selling price. All right, what's your new break even? Oh, come on. 4 divided into 20,000 gives you how much? What?
5,000.
Now, Monique, if I increase this selling price from 10 to 12, your break even units goes up or down? Down. Okay. All right. Go down to okay, Stevens. Now, what if I increased the fixed cost to 25,000? Will my break even go up or down?
This was the original problem, $10 is the sales price?
Yeah, 10 and 8. Now I'm just going to increase my fixed cost. Will my break even increase or decrease? Because you can work it out. How many units? With 2,500 units difference then, wasn't it? Okay, now I'm going to take this back the same. All right, now Giorgio, I'm going to increase my variable cost to $9. Do I have to sell more or less?
More or less.
To break even. All right. What's break even right here, Giorgio? When variable cost is $8, selling price is 10, fixed cost is 20. What is my break even? We've been calculating that all day. 2 into 20,000 is how much? 10,000, isn't it? Now, I'm going to increase my variable cost to 9. Will that make my break even units go up or down? Anybody? Well, what is $9 from 10? Transfer that dollar over here in your mind. You don't have to do it on paper. Now my break even is going to be how many units? 20. That's definitely bigger than 10. So more would be your answer. All right. So what did I do in those illustrations? I can change my fixed cost. I can change my selling price, or I can change my variable cost. There's only 3 things I can change. Now, usually, if fixed costs go up, you have to sell more units. If your selling price goes up, you sell less units. If your variable cost goes up, you got to sell more units. So if your cost goes up, fixed or variable, you sell more units. If your selling price goes down, you have to sell more units. All right. So that was all right. So basically what we just did was take our targeted profit plus our fixed contribution margin. But how do you get contribution margin? Selling price minus variable cost. You can do it as a ratio or as a dollar, which we were doing it. Selling price of 10, variable cost of $8, we were divided by $2. $2 into this gave us our break even in units. But now if I use percents here, if I use percents, it will give you break even in dollars, wouldn't it? Okay. So we can find break even in dollars or in units. And that's what the rest of the chapter is getting at. There's a few more formulas here I've got to give you, though. We know how to get profit by now. Equation method. Contribution margin times sales minus fixed expenses gives you your profit. Or sales minus variable costs gives you your contribution margin times sales. That's an equation method. You don't have to use that. Formula method, not a whole lot different. You use percents, as I told you. You calculate dollar sales instead of unit sales. Okay, so now let's practice that scenario. I'd like to get a smaller pen up there. That gets too small. All right. fixed cost is equal to 25,000. Now, find me break even in dollars. Find me break even in dollars. Not in units. Break even in dollars is equal to fixed cost of 25,000 divided by the contribution margin ratio. What does decimal 16 to 25,000 give us? Probably have to round.
One, 41,666.
Whoa, wait a minute. Is it decimal 60 or decimal 40? Try decimal 40 into 25,000. How much? $10,000? What? 10,000 couldn't be right. Whew. You what? Now 62.5 sounds a little better, doesn't it? All right. Divide that by $50 and see how many units we have to sell to break even. Divide 62.5 by $50. How many units do we sell to break even?
1,250.
All right, let's try that. Now, obviously, I don't know why all this stuff's wanting to come back on me here. All right, I'll write over it. 1,000. Well, I won't write over it too well either.
You should be able to hit Control N for a new number.
Control and what?
Control N, as in Nancy.
There you go. Thanks. All right. Okay. How many units did you say we had to sell to break even?
1,250.
600 and
1,250.
250? And we're going to sell those for $50. And what will that give me? Give me the same thing you divided. that 67.5 or 62.5? Which one?
62,500.
All right, now we've got to multiply this times our variable cost of 30. And that gives me how much? 37.5. That makes sense because you got to have how much left. All right, do you see that sales minus variable cost gives us contribution margin of 25, which just pays our fixed cost. But now, what you had to do, all right, that's a better way to work that thing. Anyhow, you had to take selling price is 50. That's 100%. Variable cost was 30, and that is 60%. All right. Now the difference is $20 contribution margin per unit, or it's 40%. So that formula, you were dividing fixed costs by contribution margin percent. Now, if you divided it by $20, it would have gave you break even in units, wouldn't it? But if you divide by 40%, it gives you break even in dollars. It's that simple. So I hope this chapter and these little concepts are not going to bother you. Okay? Okay, that's what we just did. Okay? So take a minute and work this one. Take a minute and work this one. Quick check. If you already calculate those percents, but we had to round, anybody have an answer yet? You're trying to make it too hard. All right, take $1,300 plus $2,500. That'll give you what? 38? 38? Now divide that by $1.13 divided by $1.13. Now, if I wanted dollars, the answer Georgie found a minute ago would divide by the 26%, rounded. But this should give you exact. You're dividing 3,800 by $1.13. Kayla, how many cups? Answer's A. Everybody there yet? All right. 2,500 plus 13 divided by $1.13, which is contribution margin or selling price minus the old formula I gave you from day one. All right, is equal to 33.63. All right, one more real quick. Take a minute and do this one. Okay, I want you to do the fundamental problem on page 226 for homework. Fundamental problem, page 226 for homework. And also, if you want to do the Excel problem for home, for extra credit. All right. Now that foundation problem asked you all these questions that we've covered today. So what was your answer on this one, somebody? A, B, C, or D? Come on, somebody's got it.
Is it B? B.
C.
B. B. As in boy?
All right, B. All right, take your cost and once again, change that to percent. You'd have to use the exact percent, decimal 758, and you get 5,013. And you got your homework, you're dismissed for the day.